Hi, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you about what is rapidly becoming a major global crisis. Because what we are seeing in the Middle East right now is a significant escalation, and the situation is developing very quickly. The latest waves of attacks comes in direct response to coordinated strikes on Iran by the United States and Israel. And according to multiple reports, those initial strikes were highly targeted, focused on military and strategic assets inside Iran. But crucially, those strikes are also reported to have resulted in the death of Iran's supreme leader, and that's been acknowledged now by Iranian officials. And that changes everything, because what we are now seeing is not a limited retaliation. This appears to be the crushing response that Iran had previously warned about. And importantly, it's not confined just to Israel or US military bases. Instead, Iran has launched what appears to be a much broader attack, over 100 missiles and hundreds of drones. And these have not been directed just at military targets, but across multiple countries in the Gulf. So rather than a contained conflict, this is now starting to look like a regional escalation. We are seeing impacts and incidents reported in the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and other countries, including major civilian infrastructure. Now, one of the most important elements here is this. There are reports that Iran had a pre-planned contingency strategy in place. In other words, if their leadership was targeted, particularly at the very top, the response would not be gradual, it would be immediate. It would be large scale, and it would extend across the region. And that raises a very important question. What happens now to Iran's leadership? Because if power shifts internally, particularly towards more hardline or militant factions, then the risk of further escalation increases significantly. This may not be the peak of the situation. This could just be the beginning. And that's why we're starting to see now matters so much. Because this is no longer a conflict between Iran and Israel. This is now a situation that is directly impacting multiple countries, global infrastructure, and the wider global economy. Let's now look at actually what's happening on the ground. Iran has reportedly launched over 100 missiles and more than 200 drones in coordinated strikes across the region. These were not symbolic gestures like they were in the summer of 25. These were large-scale attacks. We are now seeing confirmed reports of impacts and debris damage in multiple Gulf states. In the United Arab Emirates, incidents have been reported around Dubai International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. And there are reports of terminal damage and fire caused by intercepted missiles and drone debris. Flights have been suspended and heavily restricted, so nothing's flying out of Dubai at the moment. There are also reports of fire damage at high-profile locations in Dubai, including luxury hotel areas after falling debris. Abu Dhabi has also seen disruption with airport restrictions and closures and reported casualties linked to strike-related incidents. In Qatar, airspace closures have forced Doha's international airport that I went to recently, another major global transport hub, to suspend its flights at the moment, certainly whilst I'm making this video. And we've seen disruption reported in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. Now, the key point here is this. The Gulf region is one of the most important aviation corridors on the planet. And right now, large parts of that airspace are shut. So what does that mean? Well, firstly, aviation chaos. Dubai and Doha are not just regional airports, they are global superhubs. They connect Europe to Asia, they connect Asia to Africa, they connect Australia to Europe. Well, I can tell you that because I went through it recently. They are central to global transport. And if those hubs go down, even temporarily, the knock-on effects are enormous. Flights are being cancelled, aircraft are being rerouted, journey times are increasing, fuel costs are rising, tens of thousands of passengers are stranded. People are desperate to get out of these countries. Airlines are facing immediate financial losses, and this is happening in real time. But let's zoom out, because the much bigger issue here is oil. The countries involved in this escalation sit at the heart of global energy supply. The Middle East produces roughly a third of all of the world's oil, and critically, much of that oil passes through a narrow shipping lane called the Strait of Hormuz. And if this conflict escalates further, and especially if shipping routes are threatened, we could see a significant spike in oil prices, even if the perception of risk is enough to move the markets. Oil traders do not wait for supply to be disrupted, they price in the risk immediately. And when oil rises, everything else follows. Higher fuel costs, higher transport costs, higher manufacturing costs, and that means higher inflation. We've only just started to see inflation stabilising in many Western economies, so this could really put a spanner in the works in terms of fixing all of that. A renewed oil shock would change everything globally. Now let's talk about the markets. When geopolitical risk spikes, markets tend to react in predictable ways. Risk assets fall, so equities. Investors move into safe havens, such as gold. We typically see stock markets under pressure, money flowing into gold, strength in the US dollar, and increased demand for government bonds. At the same time, energy stocks may rise. Airlines and travel companies are also likely to come under pressure. Tourism-exposed businesses could be hit very hard. And if this situation continues, we could see sustained volatility. And volatility is something markets do not like. There is also a broader economic impact. Tourism in the region could collapse in the short term. I think it will. Business travel may be cancelled. I think it definitely will. Insurance costs are also likely to surge. Shipping costs may rise if insurers increase premiums for vessels operating in the region. And if oil prices rise sharply, that becomes a global issue. Every household will feel it through higher fuel costs. Every business will feel it through higher operating expenses. It acts like a tax on the global economy. Now, to be clear, markets do not always crash on geopolitical events. Sometimes tensions ease, sometimes oil spikes briefly and then settles. But the scale of what we are seeing right now is significant. Over 100 missiles and hundreds of drones, multiple countries impacted, major global airports disrupted. This is not a minor incident, this is a serious escalation. So what happens next? There are three key things to watch. Firstly, further retaliation. Second, the Strait of Hormuz and whether shipping remains uninterrupted. And thirdly, oil prices. If oil prices rise sharply and stay elevated, the economic consequences become much more severe. Right now, what we are witnessing is not just regional instability, it's a moment of global uncertainty. Aviation disruption, energy risk, market volatility, inflation pressure, global chaos unfolding. And the next few days could be critical. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. I wanted to give you an update as to what was happening because this is a live situation. This is being filmed at the weekend, so the markets around the world are not open at the moment, but I expect when the markets do open, we will see an instant reaction. It's likely that stock markets will start falling. We will see certain stocks really starting to crash, like aviation and tourism related stocks could be very heavily hit. We'll probably see energy stocks going up because oil prices will be rising, and that's usually good news for energy companies. So there'll be a lot of impact. I expect to see movements in the currency markets, and it's just going to be a very chaotic day. So I wanted to post this video really just to put you in the picture as to what's happening. But hopefully you found it useful, informative, and thought-provoking. If you have liked what I've said, then please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Don't forget, I'm currently running my competition where you can win my property or a cash alternative prize. If you'd like to get involved in that, scan the QR code on the screen now or click the link in the description below. Thank you so much to everyone that supported me in other ways. If you bought me a coffee or sent me a YouTube super thanks or signed up as a patron or a member, really appreciate that support. Thank you so much. And here's something to put a smile on your face.